professional learning you can consume during lunch or on a dog walk or while you water your plants. Our goal is to provide meaningful, engaging, and brief conversations for educators. I'm Kate, and my co-host today is Jared. Hey Jared, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Kate?
Good, good. And we are so excited we have a special guest with us today. I feel like we should do a drum roll. Tom, will you edit a drum roll in here somewhere? Okay, thank you. We are here with the First Lady of Utah, Abby Cox. Abby, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, we're so excited. This is so special, and we're just glad we get a little bit of your time today to talk about teaching. We're excited. One of the things that jumped out to me in reading about you is that you're an outspoken advocate for getting proximate, or connecting through our differences and combating the empathy crisis our country is facing. And I read that and I got chills. I thought this absolutely speaks to what I think you're trying to do as First Lady, and I'm excited to talk about what that means for education and specifically teachers. So.
Yeah, the idea of getting proximate came to me in a book. I am an avid reader, and I love books of all different kinds and topics. Just Mercy, I think a lot of people are familiar with that book by Brian Stevenson. And this idea of getting proximate really hit me hard in that book. It's about getting close to somebody that has a different story than you do. I think that's how we learn. I think it was Michelle Obama. I don't know if she coined the phrase or if she was quoting it, but she said it's really hard to hate up close. And I think that has been sort of a theme for us, is trying to see how we can learn from different people. And as educators, we are learning constantly from our students. They come from very different backgrounds. They come from very different life experiences. And as we get proximate to them, we understand them more. We understand if they're coming from trauma. We understand if they're coming from, a place where they've struggled, or if they're just coming from a place of joy. And we have to understand that too. So I think the idea of getting proximate and learning from people is just such a powerful thing for everyone. And I think it would heal a lot of divides that we see right now.
Oh, I love that so much. I think it's such powerful words for us as educators and as people. That's really, really powerful. And our listeners might not know that you have a background in special education, correct?
Yes, I have a special education degree with an emphasis in early childhood and severe from Utah State University. I spent my time up there and my student teaching, and then I actually student taught in the second part of my placement in Virginia, where my husband was going to law school. And then I was a stay-at-home mom for 23 years.
Oh man, that's amazing. So you are a teacher. You're one
Yes.
of us. I just love it so much. So I know you have been an advocate for teachers in your position as First Lady. And you kind of spoke to this briefly. Is there anything else you want to say about why education and teachers are so close to your heart and the work that you do?
Yeah, besides being a teacher myself and having had that training, my mother was an educator right here in Davis County. And my grandmother...
That's amazing. What did she teach?
Yeah, so my mom taught elementary school,
okay,
as well as my grandmother here in Davis County. My grandma taught in Layton, and my mom grew up here in Layton. My dad grew up in Syracuse. So I have roots in Davis County. I feel at home here. But yeah, they were both inspirations to me for education, as well as my own children, their teachers. I've been completely inspired by the work that they're doing and just the human connection that they made. I mean, they're teaching my children wonderful things and working really hard, but I also saw the human connection where they truly cared about my kids. And, I felt, coming from a background of education, it really was incumbent upon me as an educator, but as a mother, to connect with them and help them in any way I possibly can, because I saw the difficult work that they were doing and I wanted to make it easier.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that so much.
Well, what a powerful, thought there of this connection of getting proximate. And you also have this Show Up initiative. Why don't you tell us a bit more about that?
In a nutshell, again, it's all connected. It may seem a little different. We have these different focus areas. We have 4 different focus areas, but really it goes back to that core mission of connection and proximity, and really building up our communities. So the first focus area is in education. It is all about our teacher wellness and taking care of our teachers. It's learning ourselves the durable skills to be able to teach to our students. As one teacher said to me, am I a therapist or a teacher? And sadly, right now, they're both, and they're kind of all of the above. And so we want to make sure that teachers are taken care of, that they have their needs addressed so that they'll be the most effective in the classrooms that they can be. The second part of our Show Up initiative is around foster care. Now, I know educators are seeing these foster care, these students that come from foster care in their classrooms, and the trauma and the things that are coming, with them as they navigate their time in the classroom. So we are all about making sure that children have these foster children have families, first of all, and second of all, that they have the services and the care and the loving and the sense of love and belonging that every person needs. And then the third area is unified sports. And this is so dear to my heart because, again, special education is my background. This is a program with the Special Olympics, and it's where kids with all different abilities play on teams together. And it's phenomenal and beautiful. And Davis County is doing a wonderful job. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later today.
It's a pretty inspiring thing. If you wanna attend, I highly recommend. It's pretty inspiring.
It's amazing. And then the final focus area is service, and this sort of encompasses everything that we do. We want to build up our communities, and the best way we can do that is through service.
Those are 4 great thoughts. I want to go back to your first one on teacher wellness. Like, what is one thing that you wish every teacher knew?
I've been listening to teachers for a long time now, and almost daily I am listening to teachers' concerns. And I guess to me, I wish they knew that I see them, that the governor sees them, that we are doing everything we can to make their jobs easier, not harder. I know that they don't always feel that, and they don't always identify with that thought. Right. But I want them to know that as an educator myself, I get it. I see them, and I'm aware of the struggles, and we're doing everything that we can to make it easier for them to stay in their jobs and do the amazing work that they're doing.
Well, and that really speaks to the whole idea of showing up and getting proximate, is seeing somebody.
Yeah, exactly. We love that.
I especially love that your initiative focuses on teacher wellness. I think the sooner we acknowledge how emotional teaching is, the sooner we can get to the heart of fixing, things that maybe need to be changed. We need to acknowledge the very real feelings that are wrapped up in the work that we do.
Absolutely. I would really like to focus on helping the helpers. What we realized through the pandemic is that we didn't, especially those of us that were not teaching and we got our children home and realized, my goodness, it was a real kick in the pants. I'll tell you that. We all realized as parents what our educators were doing and are doing. And then they were doing this through the most difficult challenges that they could do, that you could imagine. And then what I'm hearing from teachers is that, a year ago we were heroes after that first year of the pandemic. And then after the second year of pandemic, somehow we became the villains. And they're getting this message that their work is being scrutinized, that they're doing things and they're still doing the same things that they were doing before when they were the heroes.
Right.
Even more so, because now you have children that are much more absent, is the thing I'm hearing. Mm-hmm. That you're not getting these students back in the classroom, and when they are there, they're not as engaged because they're coming from a place of trauma. And we have to recognize that educators are feeling that trauma themselves. Mm-hmm. I mean, I told business leaders a few months ago, I said, if you are not careful, we will not have teachers in 5 years. And this state will have a very bleak future. But if we turn that around and we say educators matter, of course we want to increase pay. Of course we want to do all the monetary things that we can do to take care of our teachers. But what can we do to actually invest in their emotional health? What can we do teachers know they got into this profession because they love students. They want to make a difference in the world. They didn't get in thinking they were going to make a fortune doing this. They knew that. We all know that when we go into education. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that you have to leave them out to dry.
That's right.
You have to take care of our
both things can be true.
Both things can be true. And we have to make sure that they are taken care of in other ways as well. We have to make sure that they have their emotional needs met. And we have to turn them into and recognize them as the heroes that they are. We're frontline workers during this pandemic, and they are doing the work of the future of this state. I mean, I talk to business leaders and I say, if you want an educated workforce, if you want an amazing, emotionally intelligent workforce, we've got to do the work with our educators right now. And that's the message we've been telling.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I love that so much. I'm all riled up now. I'm ready to go.
Well, our teachers will love to hear that too.
In looking into some of the work that you're doing, and you did mention this, that you're listening to teachers, you're spending time with teachers, you're getting proximate, you're in schools quite a bit. So in your time in schools, whether it's observing classes or just being a part of what's happening, what are some of the really bright spots that you're seeing?
So I just had an experience where we know that there's a substitute shortage. The governor announced that he would have all the state workers would be given 30 hours of paid time to go into a classroom and substitute, which I thought was really, really incredible. So he and I went, and it was great. He spent time in a 7th grade and 8th grade classrooms teaching history, which was really amazing.
Goodness.
It was the kids were incredible. It was really fun to watch. So I went and observed him for a minute, and it was tough. Mm. He was exhausted, and he was only there, I think, not quite a full day. Mm-hmm. And the teacher was she didn't know it was going to be the governor who was substituting in class. He didn't get.
Can you imagine that sub plan if you're like, okay,
the sub plan was like he got it at like 10 o'clock the night before,
sure, yeah.
as you do.
Yeah, as you do.
And it was pretty overwhelming for him, and it was really incredible. And the teacher was actually watching on Zoom, which was even more intimidating for him.
Well, as a teacher, I'd be like, you don't have to stick to the sub plan.
I think he was a little more intimidated than she was. I don't know, but anyway. But I had the opportunity to spend time in a special education environment. And I went with a few of the students to their orchestra class. And I just was so blown away by this educator in this music classroom. He was phenomenal. He was connecting with the students. He was joyful. He was, full of energy. And I'm telling you, middle school teachers are going straight to heaven, because I have had 4 middle schoolers in my home, and I understand how volatile their emotions can be and just all over the map. But I watched him connect with them, and they knew he cared, and it was beautiful, as well as, the special educators that were supporting them and teaching them all in their different levels. It was incredible, and so many bright spots. Those are just a couple, but I've seen I could go on for hours about the bright spots that I've seen in classrooms.
I love that. We always say, people spend time in classrooms, you'll see bright things if you're worried.
And I always say to business leaders as well as legislators, we are big advocates of you spending, and parents, spend some time. If you're having a struggle, if you're not understanding what people are about in your classroom, go spend some time.
Get proximate
to
go see what's
Get
happening.
in there and chat with your teachers. They are doing phenomenal work. And sometimes there's misconceptions, and it's mostly just because there's a little misunderstandings, and you're not getting proximate to understand the true story.
Love that.
Well, and I think like overall, when you're in a classroom and you see like really good teaching and good instruction, there's few things that are more magical than that. Like when you see somebody connecting with each student in the room, like that's just so powerful. And that's what, good teaching is. And that's what we have all across our state.
Yeah. And this is what my husband says. He says, no amount of technology will ever replace a teacher. And so we have to invest in our educators right now so that we can continue to have that connection to raise these beautiful minds up to be the future leaders and educators and, philanthropists and all the wonderful things that this state can be. These are the folks that are going to do it. These kids that we're teaching right now are going to be those, and we need educators leading the way on that.
Love it.
Yeah, and I think that leads us right into the next thought. So with what you're seeing in schools and the future of education, what gives you hope for our teachers?
Well, I think it's just that I have seen, it's the bright spots you talk about. I have hope that if we take care of our educators right now, they will stay and they will continue to be a powerful example to our students. And then we will really have a bright future in our state as we do that. There's just no better way to ensure our success as a state than to take care of our educators and to make sure that they have what they need to be successful.
Well, I know as a teacher sitting here listening to the work that you're doing and your passion for education, I am potentially excited about getting proximate with the work that's happening at the state legislature and all this work for teachers. So can you briefly tell us how educators that want to get more involved with decisions, be that at like a legislative level or, a community level, what would their advice be about getting proximate to the work you do?
When it comes to engaging in policy, I know that a lot of teachers are wary of that. I think it's intimidating, and I think they have, rightfully so in a lot of instances, have been a little burned on, maybe they don't get the message from legislators that they care. Maybe they don't get the message from their community that they care. And so they feel a little apprehensive maybe of getting involved. But I would say that the opposite is needed. My husband talks about when he was in the legislature, like when you have a constituent that approaches you about an issue, it is powerful. And I don't think people realize how big of an impact they can have if they truly just get proximate to a legislator and tell their story. Mm-hmm. Legislators would love for you to get involved. And what I'm seeing is a little disheartening that the people that do get involved and are really loud and organized tend right now to be kind of on the negative end of the spectrum. And what I think we need to do is rise up. We call it the exhausted majority, but the exhausted majority of parents, of educators, of advocates for educators to get involved and be a more powerful, unifying voice. If we don't do that, those loud negative voices will continue to dominate the discussion. And we just can't have that. It's just not healthy for our educators. It's not healthy for our communities. We have to be that powerful majority that says, no, I do care about what happens to my educators. I do care what happens in the education space. And I do feel empathy and connection to my child's teacher. The negative things that I see going on are rarely, it's interesting. They come, we used to say that all politics is local. That's not true anymore. All politics is national. So if some teacher says something or does something in Texas or New York or California, all of a sudden, legislators here in Utah are responding to that, although that's not happening here. Right. So when you get involved as an educator to really talk about what is happening, not what's potentially happening or what's happening in another state or in another area, if you really get involved to say, no, this is my experience, this is what's happening in my school right now. And as parents, we can have a powerful voice too. I had a friend who came to me when my kids were little and there was an issue. She and I were talking about, she was one of my kids' teachers. We were talking about this and she said, if you go to the school board and talk about it because you're a parent, they will listen to you. They won't listen to me as an educator, which I thought was really sad. But I did. I went and I gathered all like-minded parents with me, and we weren't negative. We just said, this is an issue for us. We don't want our educators to be put in this position, and we want our teachers to be successful. So we advocated for this different policy, and we got it. But I thought it was a really sad commentary on our how we interact with policymakers as educators, that they don't feel like they have a voice. And I want educators to have a voice, and we need to make sure that they do.
Thank you.
Well, Abby, it has been a gift to have you here with us. And when we end each episode, we like you to share a gift with our audience. And your message has been wonderful. And we're just so grateful that you're here with us. And we'd love to hear what you have for us.
So the gift, I guess, because this is probably very predictable, but I am an avid reader. I learned that from my mom and my grandma, who were educators. And
that's great. You're talking to two readers, so we're always up for it.
So I will say, I have a whole Audible list that I just love, and it's really hard. It's like, one of your kids. You really can't
pick a favorite
choose
book.
a favorite book.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I will say two books that have influenced me that I'm sure every educator has already read. But two books that are like the most dear to my heart. First of all is the whole Anne of Green Gables series. I grew up on it. I watched it. I can quote every bit of the movies. That is just it. I always say it's my palate cleanser after I go back to it every couple of years and I read the whole series again because it's just delightful. The second one is Jane Eyre. I just finished it again for like the third time. Jane Eyre gets more and more powerful the older I get. And each time I read it, it's something even more powerful. Now I have a 15-year-old and I'm telling her, like, you have to stand up for what's right. You have to know in your heart who you are. And as educators, we can instill that into our students, knowing who they are. They are powerful humans that have the ability to make life better for other humans, and make the future of our country and our state wonderful. So read it again if you haven't read it for a while.
Classic.
That one definitely ages well. Jane Eyre does, for sure, and so does Anne of Green Gables. Those are awesome. Thank you so much. We just appreciate you being here and sharing your ideas. I know I've been inspired. As always, thanks to our producer, Tom, for making us sound so good. Thanks for joining us, listeners. Please like and subscribe and share the podcast with others. We'll see you at school.